All right, we're ready to get going. How are you guys doing? Do you like the lemon cookies? There's more back there, so feel free to sneak back and get more. I think it's just the almond flour and the just all the stuff and the cashew butter is just that together. And I know she massages uses it was 4 lemons to make that batch, and the lemon zest, and you massage lemon zest into the flour, and that kind of really infuses the lemon flavor and makes them really lemony. But yeah, I'm glad you liked them. But yeah, bro, yeah, it's not a food. It's a delicacy. It's yeah, almond flour and cashew butter. Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, and we had a good walk on Saturday. We actually had 17 people. We had Lane County Medical Society was there, so it was a little earlier. It was 8 o'clock, but now all the rest of them are always at 9 o'clock. So hopefully some of you guys can show up there for those. They're fun. And yeah, we're any questions or anything before Eric gets started? I'll let him take over. I don't think I was trying to think if I had any other announcements. I don't think so. Um, yeah. We are going to have, I haven't nailed down the date yet, but our movie night, we always have a movie night on Saturday towards the end of the class series. I think it's going to be on September 12th, the Saturday after Labor Day. And we're planning to show, still got to watch it myself, but the Fantastic Fungi. You guys seen that? Is it good? Yeah, Fantastic Fungi. So it's about mushrooms. Yeah, but then I think it was Trish told me she's seen it. I think towards the end, it's a lot of it's about the psilocybin, the for mental health. So I don't know if we don't have to, people don't have to stick around for that part, that because it's not that's just for like mental health conditions research, psilocybin. There was actually Michael Pollan did a documentary about that. If you guys know Michael Pollan about psilocybin, yeah, I know my nephew did it for a while. He had a lot of PTSD from Afghanistan, and I think he did some and got some benefit, but that's just anecdotal, right? So, but yeah, yeah, seems to be a thing. Get certified in doing prescribing the psilocybin. Yeah, not sure. Yeah, right. But 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 that was our only reservation about showing it here. I don't know if that would. I haven't watched it again myself. If that would cause any, you know, if anyone would be offended by that or something, but I wouldn't think so. But and then we instead of doing popcorn, we would do some sort of sample of something with mushrooms, right? Like a stew or something like that or whatever. So, all right, well, I'll turn it over to Eric.
All right. Hello, guys. I'm Eric Colgrove again. Welcome back. Good to see you. Has anyone not seen this talk yet? Not seen this talk? Yeah. All right. Uh, I've tried to change it up a little bit. I changed it up more this time too. So if you have seen it before, I've made some changes. And um, I always like to start off with a joke. So where do pirates get their hooks from? Pirates get their hooks from the secondhand store. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Cheesy dad jokes, I gotta start with the dad joke. As a pediatrician, dad jokes are really close to my heart. I learned half of them from the patients. It's yeah, I don't know it. I tried it. I asked a fair number of patients. I say, so what joke did you bring me today? And that's kind of how I'll break the ice or whatever. Yeah. So they'll usually tell me something if they have something, or I'll tell them some a joke. Yeah. So, anyways, I work at the community health centers of Lane County, and been a pediatrician for 28 years. It really enjoy it. It's been a great career. I'm still going strong. And today we're talking about the health nutrition for kids, the whole family nutrition, and at any point, If you've got any questions at all, please stop me and ask questions because this is much more interesting when it's interactive. So, yes. Yes. Are we going to talk about how to get kids to eat the diet? That's really important. And I definitely am going to be talking about that. So, um, but first of all, I want to start off with talking about perceptions or misperceptions of your own kids, our own kids' diet, and what we think they are eating. I wonder if you could play video number one for me, Ed. Talking about diet quality and how we misperceive it. Because that's the first thing you need to understand is it a good, do our kids have good diet already? Do we need to even worry, think about it? Well, most diets you'll see are pretty cruddy. Oop, go ahead and turn it up. Yep, sorry.
Response to the rising rates of childhood obesity, English children started getting screened at school when their parents informed of their kids' weight status and
Turn on the top.
in response to the rising rates of childhood obesity, English children started getting screened at school and their parents informed of their kids' weight status and the risk of excess body fat. It did not go well. Telling parents that a lifetime of excess body fat can increase cancer risk, for example, caused controversy and anger. Parents attributed weight to genetics or puppy fat, claiming their kids had healthy diets. One reason kids may not be eating more healthfully is that their parents overestimate the quality of their child's diet. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, if they think their kids are already eating well, then there's no reason to change. The mothers of 2,000 preschoolers were interviewed. What percentage of moms believed that their child's diet was good? The vast majority. What percentage of their kids' diet were actually good? Even just according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture's healthy eating guidelines, which aren't exactly strict, only 0.2%. 1 in every 500 kids. The vast majority of mothers overestimated the quality of their child's diet. Here's an updated study, another 2,000 households, just seeing if kids meet the fruit, vegetable, and sugar recommendations from the U.S. Dietary Guidelines and the American Heart Association. Researchers looked at kids from ages 3 through 18 and relied on reporting from their own parents as to what they were eating. Overall, the majority of parents strongly agreed that their kids ate healthfully. So how many of the 2,229 households met the guidelines to eat even the minimum recommended amounts of fruits and veggies and not eat more than 6 spoonfuls of sugar a day? 0. Not a single kid in a single household. On average, the kids were eating more than 15 spoonfuls of added sugar every day. Parental denial over the healthfulness of their children's diet mirrors the parental denial that their overweight and obese kids are even overweight at all. Based on surveys in more than 20 countries, 94% of parents with obese children believe that their children are normal weight or only a little overweight. 94%. And the greater the obesity prevalence, the more likely parents think their kids look normal, because they kind of do, more and more. But this underestimation of their child's weight status is a barrier to slowing the childhood obesity epidemic. And just as parents of overweight kids fail to recognize that their kids are overweight parents are also in denial about their own weight. This is not surprising. Who wants to admit they're part of a widely stigmatized group? Of course, researchers aren't helping matters when they title their papers about parental misconception about overweight kids, "Every cockroach is beautiful to his mother's eyes."
Okay. Yeah. So, yes. What do you got? Yes. Did you have a question? Oh, no. No. Yeah. Okay. Thought you did. All right. Well, in my nearly 3 decades of pediatrics, I realized that picky eating is not a isolated little thing that you kind of get over. Sometimes you do, but really this whole idea of picky eating is kind of the roadmap for how you develop the standard American diet. So the truth is that processed foods hijack the child's brain. These highly processed foods really overstimulate that brain, and to the point where normal foods are boring compared to these hyperpalatable ones. And so, this idea that, oh gosh, our kids are gonna starve if we don't get them something to eat, and so we relent and we say we give them food. Oh gosh, you got to eat something. So I'll give you mac and cheese or chicken nuggets or any of those other beige foods. Is what gets in the cycle of picky eating and deciding those kids deciding then how to most maximally stimulate their brains with foods, and that's the whole standard American diet dilemma. It kind of starts from there. So it doesn't mean that forever you'll be picky eater. It just means that it's a hard place to be at the very beginning of your eating life. And so, I met kids in my clinic that won't even eat fruit. I mean, I have a bunch, of course, many that don't eat vegetables. But boy, some of them don't even eat fruit. I mean, this is nature's candy. This is what God made for us to have that beautiful sweet tooth that we have. Beautiful, ripe, wonderfully sweet grapes. To me, it's the red grapes that I love so much. There's nothing better. I mean, I'm oftentimes comparing my desserts that I might get somewhere to just like a ripe, beautiful honey mango, the yellow mangoes. I don't know if you ever had those, or just grapes or some other kind of perfect. Yeah, pineapples and kiwis and peach. Yeah, peaches. Oh my God, I picked peaches the other day at have you guys been to Bush's farm on the other side of Fern Ridge? Good place to pick peaches. It's very easy. You barely have to go and do anything. You just kind of wander down these little aisles of trees, and they're all about the eye level, and it's perfect. It's unbelievable. It's just, there's nothing you can make that's better than these perfectly ripe fruits. So yeah, that's what scares me when kids when kids won't even eat fruit. I often ask, what's your favorite fruit? And they'll tell me, but some kids will be like, oh no, I only eat pizza and macaroni and cheese. And what? Um, and let's watch the AAP video on picky eaters, what they have to say.
Healthy foods is important for your children's growth and development, but it can be downright frustrating to get kids to eat a variety of foods. Here are some tips to help you handle picky eating. How can I help my picky eater explore new foods? Encouraging your toddler's sense of independence is a great way to make him more likely to try new foods. You can. Let him choose a healthy new food at the grocery store. Have him help prepare food in the kitchen. Let him feed himself and give him choices. Offer a healthy option you know he likes and another that's a new taste. Giving your toddler choices about what and how much he eats will make him feel like an independent little person. Things could get messy, but he'll be proud and excited to try something he helped choose or make.
He copies everything I do, so I make sure he sees me eat my veggies.
If she's not into a food, we just keep trying because she goes through phases with stuff. She's like, no, 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 yes.
We keep an eye on how much milk she drinks during the day. If she's had too much, she won't be hungry at mealtime.
What if my child refuses to eat? It's normal for kids to get upset sometimes during meals. If it feels frustrating, you're not alone. So many parents have been there. Here are some approaches you can try. If your child gets upset about food, try to stay calm. The best reaction is no reaction at all. Don't feel pressured to make a second meal. Tell her that this is the meal you've made for the family and she can eat it or not. Trust that if your child is truly hungry, she'll eat. If not, she can wait until the next meal, and that's okay. It's hard to stay firm and be patient, but it's worth it. By being consistent, you'll help your child become a healthy eater.
We try not to push or bargain. He gets more stubborn under pressure.
Her appetite varies from day to day, and she seems to know how much food she needs. So I try not to worry if she eats a little less or skips a meal.
Our pediatrician says it's my job as a parent to offer healthy meals and snacks, and it's my child's job to decide when and how much to eat.
It can take time and effort to get your children eating a variety of healthy foods, but your patience and calm through all the funny faces, messes, and tantrums will set them up for a lifetime of healthy eating. For more information about healthy habits for your children, visit www.healthychildren.org/growinghealthy.
I like that video. Oops. It's just packed full of little jewels in there. I don't know, did you guys, anything that stuck out to you? I like the one that says, well, they say, it's the parent's job to provide some healthy foods, and it's the child's job to determine what to, when to eat it, how much to eat, and that's key. I think being consistent, making sure that they mentioned there also the importance of being able to see the parent eating that food that you want them to eat. If nobody in the house eats vegetables, the child's not going to eat vegetables. They gotta see it. It's gotta be something that is modeled in the home. So, anything else stick out to you that seems right or wrong?
I would say my two boys were little. That would save a lot of heartache.
Yeah.
Battle, just what that video said. Wish I could go back and do it again.
Yeah, we're so afraid that they're going to starve to death if we don't. Yeah, let them eat it. Yeah, simply just push it up to the middle of the table and say you can come back and climb up here and get this food whenever you want to. Yeah, I can eat up again if you need to or whatever. Yeah. All right. So, just I just want to highlight the fact that mealtime is really about connection. It's really about the family connecting together. So having family mealtime is really critical, at least one time a day. If you can do all meals, sometimes it's not practical because everyone's doing different things and sports and work and job, all this stuff. But really, there should be an effort made to at least one time a day. Everyone sitting down, breaking bread together. It's so important. There's a lot of studies showing how beneficial it can be to a kid's life to have that family meal. So, and we know in the first 6 months of life, what's going on? What are the kids eating? They're eating breast milk, right? Some of them are eating formula or a combination of the two, but breast milk is the food of the first 6 months of life. The next 6 months, at 6 months, like is when you can start eating baby foods, not solid foods, basically. And I like thinking about also baby-led weaning, which is our combination of pureed foods and baby-led weaning, um, which is basically just soft foods that they can grab onto and put in their mouth themselves. So, and it's not until really as you get closer to 12 months of age that they're eating what you're eating, so you might not be eating pureed foods and one simple, carrot or whatever that you've made really mushy in the pot. But as they get closer to 12 months, they're eating more just foods that you're eating and that you chopping up for them really good and letting them grab it and put it in their own mouth. And that's and really what should be happening at 12 months is really it's the same menu. There's not like three different menus going on in the household. I've heard a lot of that. Yeah, we make a parental meal and then we make one kid likes this stuff and we'll make a meal for that child, and this child likes this stuff but not that stuff, and that's the nightmare. There's one, same menu, and not having separate menus for the family is, I think, really important thing. Um, so this idea of baby-led weaning, I want to talk more about that. That is the idea that you can just take soft food, and at 6 months, you think it's too early, but they can actually grab onto it if it's shape or the size of an adult pinky or so, or doesn't have to be exact. You can like literally cook a carrot. You think carrot's a very chokeable thing, but if you cook it, make it really soft, they can you can cut it in half, whatever, and they can grab onto it. It's kind of finger shaped. They can grab it, and they'll even though they don't have teeth, they don't need teeth. Kids have very sharp gums. They'll gum it on down, and 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 for some parents, that's a very scary thing to think about. This idea that, boy, how could kids feed themselves? Because does not lead to choking, and it doesn't lead to any more incidents of choking. So it leads to gagging, which any food when first time you're having food in your throat, you gag a bit. And I try to reassure the parents that gagging is not a harmful thing. Gagging is a wonderful thing because it's protecting your airway, learning how to protect your airway. And actually, the way to get rid of that sensitive gag reflex is by gagging, by doing it over and over, and then your gag reflex actually calms down over time. Mine was, overactive even into my 20s and stuff, and it wasn't until I realized I could brush the back of my tongue and make myself gag. It was kind of gross, but eventually it just completely, I don't have a gag reflex anymore because I continue to say, yeah. I mean, if I really worked out, I'm sure I'd gag, but nothing like it was when I was in my 20s. Um, yeah, so let's watch this thing about baby-led weaning. We can turn it off at 3:28. Is it 3:20? Yeah.
Raising children.
Yeah, what I love about that is just the sense of exploration at this age. Oh, just this, and they can decide. You put two things on the tray, decide what they're going to eat and what they're not going to eat, and just the sense of autonomy. Being able to decide how much of they're going to eat. They don't have the spoon coming jamming down the throat. I think it's good to get them used to some purees too, but to do both and not to be strict one or the other. Just I think letting kids experience both of those things. One thing I do like about soft baby foods is the infant cereals like oatmeal cereal, because those are fortified with iron, and babies have iron in their bodies for a good 4 to 6 months. But around that time, you're really seeing a major drop off in their iron, not just because of the food they're eating, the breast milk. Breast milk doesn't have a lot of iron in it at all. It has a tiny amount, but it's very absorbable. So what's in there does get absorbed really well. But most of their iron comes from the mother, not from the breast milk, but from the mother's bloodstream before being born. And that those iron stores last for 4 to 6 months. So I like the idea of being able to give some iron fortified cereal. So that's the caveat to not doing just baby led weaning. You want to do something that has iron. Yeah. What any questions at all? What thoughts do you have after seeing that? Anything particular? Yes. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I think their parents. Yeah, the question is for older kids. She's a grandmother who all has grandchildren that she would love to see transition their diet away from the standard American diet. She's doing her own transitioning to a more whole foods, plant-based diet? And how do you get those older kids who've been raised on a more standard American diet? Now what do you do to bridge them over to something healthy? I think it's very similar to what you do, but number one is they've got to be able to see it in their home. So if the parents aren't doing it, and you're doing it as a grandmother, that's good, but they need to see the parents doing it too. Um, they're not going to necessarily see much in the way of this happening at school, so it's got to happen in the home. And and then you do your best to make foods that taste good. But really, the key thing is going to be in the next video talking about how to get. Oh no, that's the two videos. Two videos from now, we'll talk more about about vegetable. Yeah, 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 yeah. No, yeah. So how old? Yeah, so a child who doesn't have the teeth yet, probably less than a year old, and eating gnawing on chicken leg, and usually chicken can be pretty soft. You can get it pretty soft. Um, of course, it's the other meats that are not so soft. Like, yeah. So yeah, yeah, yeah. I think kids do fine with it. Yeah. The thing is that we survived. I don't try not to get too over stressed about it because, boy, when you think about that, we came through thousands and thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, eating the things around us, including some meats that we did it. So I wouldn't get too stressed about it. Yeah. Yeah. What were you gonna say? Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I've never heard of that. That's good to hear. I mean, yeah, one of the key things is when and you saw in the video too, that you should be around when your child's feeding, that you shouldn't leave your child unattended. So that your child's not just gonna choke on a banana and die typically. Usually they're unattended or something. Something else is going on. I gotta assume, but yeah, usually not attended. Um, yeah, and when someone's choking, they're really that even a baby, is because they're obvious. They're not moving any air whatsoever, and they start grabbing at the throat, and it's quite a scene. So if that happens, then you're kind of as a parent, you're in mode of uh slapping the kid's back and doing chest compressions if you need to. Yeah, yeah, good, good, good point there. Yeah, that would add. What's that? Yeah, too much peanut. That's right. That definitely is a chokeable thing. Too much peanut butter. Thick things like there are definitely some chokeable things. So, when kids are by the time they're by the time they're one or two, they can eat pretty much anything except for the chokeable things. But by the time they're one, they really can't. Probably the most chokeable things that people don't think about is how thick butters like peanut butter, and then also popcorn. You can get the kernels in the corn and that kind of stuff, and that could be a chokeable thing. So I really don't recommend eating popcorn until you're like 3 years old. So, yeah. Yeah, I just realized one of my videos that will answer your question about about trying to getting them to eat more vegetables and that kind of stuff is not on here. Yes, that's it. For some reason, I don't have it on here. Yes, that's it. Getting kids to eat vegetables. Let's watch that one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, bargaining kind of stuff. But that also brings up the idea of sneaking foods. I don't like the idea. A lot of people do this where they'll sneak foods, sneak the vegetables into certain foods. Much better to teach them how to add in foods. And so if you can get your child to plant some food, some plants, that gets them super invested in it. You can get them to shop in the shopping store and pick out things. You can get them to cook. All these things are like levels of extra buy-in for those kids. Those kids will suddenly become more interested in eating more. But so if you're doing a shake, first you're doing a fruit shake or something with your kids, you could say, well, gee, how many these are? You can talk about how wonderful these are for your body and what a superpower these leaves have, and how you can decide how many you want to put into your shake. They're good plain. You can eat them plain, but they're even better in the shake. And so then you can have them decide how many, and the next time maybe even do more if they didn't really mind having that amount. And you can try different things, and then you can try different vegetables, and becomes kind of another little adventure for them. But yeah, let's watch this one about vegetables.
Raising children on a vegan diet. What problems do parents face in everyday life? One challenge is fear of the pediatrician judging or opposing their choices for their kids. Most Italian parents responding to a survey didn't even ask the pediatrician about their vegan diet, but when they did, half of them thought the quality of information was insufficient. Despite this barrier, most parents were regularly offering diverse food groups and a regular B12 supplement. They had sought information from dietitians, nutritionists, and scientific websites about vegan diets, and were well aware of the importance of implementing a well-planned vegan diet for their kids. One of our favorite resources for raising plant-based families is Nourish by Sean Davis. Other studies have shown that parental knowledge is key to ensuring healthy nutrition in young childhood. And parents should be educated about risks of nutritional deficiencies, along with principles of a healthy plant-based diet. In discussing the appropriateness of vegan diets for kids, there is a recurring concern that nutrient deficiencies may occur if children do not accept nutrient-rich food groups, such as nuts, legumes, and whole grains, which are required to reach a balanced nutrient intake. But remember the veggie study of German children and adolescents that I highlighted in a previous video? The vegan kids had a more diverse and healthful plant food pattern, consuming the highest amount of vegetables, whole grains, and beans, compared to vegetarian and omnivorous kids. While the adolescent omnivores tended to exceed the maximum recommended meat intake for adults, as recommended by the German Nutrition Society. Low vegetable consumption in children is a concern in many countries. Fewer than 1/5 of children in Europe consume the amounts recommended by the World Health Organization. In the United States, adolescents have relatively low consumption of fruits, vegetables, nuts, and legumes, posing risks for micronutrient adequacy and potential implications for later chronic disease. And for green leafy vegetables, the picture is even worse. Only about 10% reported eating any on dietary survey days. Is there any good news? It is possible to get your kids to eat the rainbow. Systematic studies show that exposure to a variety of vegetables early in childhood can promote later consumption into adulthood. And this is also true for green leafies. Check out this study where they got preschoolers to drink their greens. I imagine for many parents of young kids, this is hard to believe. Preschoolers provided smoothies with dark green veggies, drank about a 3/4 cup serving of spinach, kale, or collards. And caregivers can even start earlier, introducing bitter-tasting vegetables to infants and toddlers. In this study, cups of kale purees, admittedly not my favorite way to eat kale, were served one of 3 ways: plain, with added sugar, or with added salt. The younger the kid, the more likely they were to take multiple bites of the kale. 100% of 6 to 12-month-olds took 2 bites of the plain kale, while only about 50% were willing to take 2 bites once they were 18 months and older, suggesting a sensitive period exists in which it's easier to introduce foods to children. And just because the child doesn't try it when you first offer it, doesn't mean they won't try it later during the same meal. And in contrast to expectations, adding sugar and salt did not result in better acceptance. What other tips might help? For the youngest of eaters, introducing vegetables only as their first solid foods for a few weeks, instead of a combination of fruits and vegetables, resulted in infants consuming more vegetables at 9 months of age than the control group, who received a combination of vegetables and fruit, including double the intake of broccoli and spinach. And not to worry, they still liked fruits once they started eating them. For those wondering if you can introduce recommended iron-rich foods at the same time, yes. Parents whose children started the study at 6 months old, when infants start to need iron from a food source, were encouraged to include those foods too. Up through age 5, the consistent factor that helps increase vegetable consumption is repeated taste exposure. And this can take a minimum of 8 to 10 exposures to a vegetable. So don't stress if your child doesn't immediately want to eat a new veggie. A so-called picky eating phase occurs in about half of children at some point between 1.5 and 6 years old. But what factor was positively associated with daily fruit and vegetable intakes in this age group? Regular family meals.
All right. So one of the key things I took away from this is that there's a sensitive period that your palate has for accepting bitter flavors. And I always knew that it's important to start with vegetables in kids before you start the fruits, because they're a much stronger flavor and that sweet factor, they get that in their brain, then they're less likely to have vegetables. But this idea of a sensitive period where your palate will accept kale, like plain kale. I mean, that's pretty bitter. So that's recently excited me as I watched this video again and really had it sink in that really I need to be having people understand the sensitive period of the palate, that they need to really take advantage of that time. Otherwise, you are at risk for developing a picky eater and going down that route of not being able to tolerate the standard or the whole food plant-based diet. So, and the other thing they mentioned this video was, trying things over and over. I mean, I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, my child does not like beans. I tried them once and they gagged and they never liked the idea. They always pushed it away." And this tells you for sure, the studies are clear that it may take a child over 10 times. I've even seen some studies that say 15 times, retrying that food over and over. So reintroducing it. And something that happens, I mean, it's certainly, I don't know if you've had this experience yourself, but the idea that even when you don't like something at first, you try it a few more times, as an adult, you have the same experience. Charlie and I were at one of these lectures we're commiserating over our goji berry dislike at first. And then after having a few times, just like, okay, I bought this bag of goji berries, they're not cheap. And as I was like, okay, I got to finish this bag. But boy, as I got a quarter way through the bag, it's like, wait a minute, I like these things. I eat goji berries every single day of my life now. I do. And I didn't really like them at first. I was like, oh, These aren't sweet. I don't like these. They're good. So anyways, yeah, it still happens. I mean, that same kind of thing can happen with coffee. You know, kids don't like coffee. It's not just that it's bitter to them and it tastes gross, but they don't typically try it again. But yeah, I think the same thing happens as adults. Not don't necessarily like coffee the first time you drink it, but you have it a few times and you start liking it more. Yeah. Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
Why we just put it down. She went for it. You know, she kind of adventure stuff. The only thing she knew she liked for sure was ice.
Of course.
Or they didn't want something, didn't like it.
Yeah.
Then she didn't like it.
Oh, yes. Right. There's the copycat factor with accepting foods, no doubt. Yeah. 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 Yes. Absolutely. Great point. The point of being even prenatally, that babies are getting flavors. Those chemicals are wandering through the placenta and getting to the babies even before. And that's true, especially of like junk foods. You have a mom who's eating fast foods and junk foods. Yeah, you're much more likely to have a baby that's going to be interested in having those same kind of tastes in their mouth. Yeah, their brain's going to want that. Yes.
And it is hard to have sleepover. I have a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And I better Bob stuff. I'm there yet.
Yeah.
But what do I know? They eat French fries all the time, and I'm sure that's part of the sugar that they. And that's
Yeah.
what they want, and they don't. They're not very good about eating vegetables, and I always, you know, they're on their plate, but they don't have them at home. I'm worried so much about that, but yet I still want to be the grandma that lectures her daughter about.
Yeah. Right. Right. So is this the your own grandkids or the kids that are having sleepovers coming over? Oh, huh. Yeah. Right. So I think you do what you can do, which is to introduce it. Yes. So they see you eat them, number one. Number two is you don't have some of the junk out. Now, so many kids are used to like, oh, their grandparents spoiling them and giving them all kinds of horrible junk foods. And parents don't necessarily like that, right? Like parents are trying to be better about some of the stuff, and the grandparents love spoiling their kids. And so I see more of this that I have to, let's get grandparents on the same page. You guys are all ahead of the curve, that's for sure. So, um, yeah, I think, just an understanding. I don't think you need to be too strict about it in terms of can only be unprocessed foods or whatever. It's got to be, I think you have a variety of different things for them. And yeah, right. Yeah.
The mom and me worries about.
Yeah. Sure. No, I think that's natural. And I, let me also address about the sleepover effect that that your kids can have. Let's say you're a parent and your child's going for a sleepover. I think you need not to sweat that kind of thing. They're going to get junk food over there at their friend's house at a sleepover. And that is, you can't control that. Only, you can only control in your kids really what they're getting at your house. And you can instill in them the proper ways of eating, but I don't think you need to make them feel guilty about eating whatever their friends are eating. So I don't know how that fits into your scenario, but I think yeah. I mean, yeah, right. You don't have some of the stuff. I think probably the biggest one I would avoid is the straight sugar going down the gullet in via soda. I think our bodies evolved eating food, and that food, our body slowly digesting the food and pulling the energy away from that food. But what happens when you drink soda or juices? It goes straight in your stomach, and then it goes straight into your bloodstream like immediately. And it's just not. It's very stressful in your body, and I just really I make sure that we try to not get kids having this just tremendous brain stimulation and tremendous body stress of sugar drinks. So even apple juice, I really try to. That's one I would try to get away from. Yeah, yeah. Just try. It's water. Go for cranberry. Yeah, I think that juice is juice. Cranberry, if you get the real cranberry, it's not going to have a lot of sugar in it, and then maybe a little bit better. But yeah, they won't drink it. That's right. Real cranberry. But the other cranberry, the kind of cranberry you're used to, is loaded with sugar, and it's the same thing. It's going straight in their stomach, and yeah. So my recommendation is to do just water, and maybe you do a other special treat or something. Maybe you're doing, make some those cookies tonight were delicious. What kind of a treat is that? And think about some of the things I've mentioned about how fruits are just so awesome. If you spend some extra money and get some really good ripe organic mangoes or strawberries or something that's just really knock their socks off. And nice cream, wonderful idea. Thanks, Scott. Yeah, yeah, and then you can show them how to make the nice cream. You can make it like part of the sleepover party is, let's all make our ice cream, nice cream together. You guys know what nice cream is? So it's basically just simple. You just are simply using bananas and dates and some berries, and it's delicious. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's okay. I do like better having them involved with that. And so you're kind of backstepping to this idea of hiding food in things like shakes. So it's easier to hide food in shakes, vegetables, and that kind of stuff. Right. I think, yeah, talk about the difference between nutrients and calories, energy, and how all this other stuff doesn't have, has a lot of energy, but not nutrients. And nutrients is what makes your body the superhero body that you need. It's going to make you grow. It's going to make you tall and strong and all this stuff. And so they can decide then how much they want to go in there. Whether it's a piece of zucchini or whatever, or the whole zucchini, that's fine. What's that? Yeah, right. What would Batman? Yes, Popeye eating spinach. Yes. Scott was bringing up this idea that WWBE, what would Batman eat? So would he eat the McDonald's fries, or would he eat the the carrots. So, you know, you could ask your child, what would they eat? Would Batman be eating the McDonald's fries or the spinach or carrots or whatever it is? Yeah. Yeah. No, I haven't. Yeah.
He's really interesting because he changes the first scientist. Holy shoot. And he worked for Steve Jobs for a while,
Uh,
a couple of years.
Hmm.
But anyway, he also paid for Bethlehem with him.
Oh, really? Hmm.
He made it, well, he had his own thing. And his thing now is to make video with the science. So he interviews the science.
Oh, wow.
He had 3 books. He was, you know, I guess they're big books, but he was, I get that.
Piggy?
Picky,
Picky.
like a picky eater.
Picky eater. Yeah.
The book. And
Yeah.
I'm really curious to get my hands on that book. I'm really curious to know what it is.
Huh.
So you might want to.
Picky. Yeah. That's right up my alley. Yeah. And what's the name of that guy again? Chris McGaskill. Oh, huh. Yeah.
He,
Hmm.
bullet from video off. Walter Willett, who's
Hmm.
one of the most cited nutritionists in the world.
Oh, neat. Huh.
He's Harvard. He was saying his website is called Eva Longevity.
Eva Longevity.
So anyhow,
Huh.
Because he loves doing it, he won't take any money.
Yeah. He's already got his money. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he has a bunch. He books, nutrition books, and writing books, and he has like a 300-year-old.
Oh, really? His own nutrition book is 300 years old. Yeah. Wow. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Interesting. Evil. Yeah. Yeah. Evil longevity. I'll look it up. Okay. Cool. Other questions or comments? All right. The next thing I wanted to mention was the whole milk myth. This idea that people think that, you know, for 100 years, over 100 years, we've been brainwashed that we got to drink this breast milk of a cow. Bizarre. It's just not healthy. I actually, I saw patients today. I saw 2 different patients that are like, I think one was 5 and one was 9, but different families, and can't drink milk. And so mom was like, "Oh, should we do testing?" One of the moms was like, "Oh, should we do testing?" And it's like, "No, you're not supposed to drink milk. It's not really what your body does after weaning from breast milk." So, yeah, and so there's the idea of post weaning. No mammals drink breast milk after post weaning, and then drinking the breast milk of a different mammal, a different animal. That's just bizarre, right? So if I told you I was drinking breast milk, you think I was just bizarre. And if I told you I was drinking breast milk from a different species, you think I was even weirder. And that's what we do, and we think it's healthy. So, anyways, there's a video I wanted to show you on milk. Yeah, it's a new one I had seen on a Gregor video on a lifespan and milk drinkers.
In my video on milk and bones, I discussed this set of studies, following 100,000 people for up to 2 decades, finding a 60% higher risk of hip fracture among women who drank a lot of milk. The researchers suggested it might be due to the galactose, which is a breakdown product of the milk sugar lactose, based on the fact that people with high levels in their blood, because they were born with an inability to detoxify the stuff, can end up with weakened bones. But that's not all galactose can do. Galactose is what scientists use to cause accelerated aging in lab animals, since it's so successful at mimicking aging by inducing degenerative changes in the brain, heart, lungs, liver, kidney, etc. Life-shortened animals showed neurodegeneration, mental retardation, and cognitive dysfunction, diminished immune responses, and a reduction of reproductive ability. And it doesn't take much, just the human equivalent of 1 to 2 glasses worth of milk a day. However, humans aren't rodents. For example, we've known for nearly a century that you can cause cataracts in rats by feeding them lots of lactose or galactose, but the epidemiological data is mixed as to whether dairy is doing the same in people. The Swedish studies didn't just look at bones, though, but milk and mortality. More milk was associated with more death. In women, 3 glasses of milk a day was associated with nearly twice the risk of dying prematurely. The medical journal editorial accompanying the study emphasized that, given the rise in milk consumption around the world, the role of milk in mortality needs to be established definitively now. With the then largest ever study on milk intake and mortality suggesting such adverse effects, Harvard researchers stepped in with 3 of their cohorts to form a study twice as big to see if the earlier findings were just a fluke. Following more than 200,000 men and women for up to 3 decades, they confirmed the bad news. Those who consume more dairy live significantly shorter lives. Every half serving more of regular milk a day was associated with 9% increased risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, 11% increased risk of dying from cancer, and 11% increased risk of dying from all causes put together. This is all the more remarkable since milk drinking is typically associated with healthier habits, like more exercise and less smoking and drinking, though they did try to control for all these factors. Of course, it does matter what you eat instead. This Harvard analysis, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, found that swapping dairy for meat, red meat, poultry, or fish would not be expected to do your body any favors, and you would be expected to live longer eating dairy than eggs or processed meat. It's only when you swap dairy for plant-based sources of protein that they find a significant drop in mortality risk. When all the milk and mortality studies are put together, it appears the excess mortality risk is limited to regular as opposed to low-fat like skim milk. This suggests it may be more of a saturated fat issue, though that doesn't explain why soured or fermented milk appears to have the opposite impact. So maybe it's both the butterfat and the galactose? A randomized crossover study of low-fat dairy, fermented dairy, and unfermented dairy found that study subjects had significantly higher IL-6 inflammation levels during unfermented regular dairy weeks compared to when they were switched to either the fermented or low-fat dairy products. The fermentation process can eliminate some of the galactose. As we age, our ability to detoxify galactose declines by as much as 40%, which would make it even more important to avoid dairy later in life, if indeed galactose is the culprit. But if galactose does its dirty work through oxidation and inflammation, might increased fruit and vegetable intake help mediate some of the harm? In animals, galactose-induced aging can be slowed by fruit and vegetable consumption. For example, feeding rats blueberries can decrease the brain damage induced by the milk sugar. Might it be able to help with the higher levels of oxidative stress and inflammation found among human milk drinkers? Unfortunately, women drinking 3 more glasses of milk a day had more than twice the risk of hip fractures compared to women drinking less than a glass a day, regardless of whether they were eating more or less fruits and vegetables. But those high milk consumers consuming 5 or more servings of fruits and vegetables, they did reduce their chance of dying prematurely to just 60% greater than those drinking less milk. So antioxidant-rich foods may be able to modify the elevated death rate associated with high milk consumption. Highly influential advocacy organizations, such as the U.S. National Osteoporosis Foundation or the Europe-based International Osteoporosis Foundation, continue to push dairy drugs and calcium supplements despite the countervailing evidence that I've reviewed. Why do they keep pushing dairy drugs and supplements? Perhaps because their objectivity is compromised by the influence of their commercial sponsors that include companies that market, you guessed it, dairy drugs and supplements. Most recent reviews on dairy and osteoporosis in the English language medical literature were found to be written by those with ties to the dairy industry. The primary justification for inclusion of dairy in federal nutrition recommendations is based on purported bone benefits that are not supported by the available evidence. What if dietary guidelines were fashioned without commercial influence? In 2019, Canada decided to exclude industry reports and stick to the science in the formation of their new dietary guidelines. What a concept. Major changes include the new emphasis on plant-based food intake, limiting junk, and the removal of the dairy food group.
Any questions? Any questions about that? Yeah, Jerry.
Wrote a book called Please Don't Drink Your Milk. And the American Dairy Association bought every copy and destroyed it. And I knew we didn't have internet yet. I asked him one day at a seminar, I said, well, why don't you reprint and sell it out of your office? And he said, he had made his point.
Right. Yeah, but people didn't know about it. I don't know. 50 years later. Yeah. So why were there thoughts about giving kids dairy anyways? Well, tell me about why. What do we get out of dairy? Out of whole cow's milk? Well, why did we tell people? Dairy industry and their subset. Okay, so dairy industry. Yes, number one answer. Yeah, that's the number one answer is definitely yes. The other, I mean, think about what else we get out of dairy. That's good. Calcium. Okay, so the micronutrient calcium. You've got a child growing bones, plenty of bones, incredible bone growth. You got to have some calcium. Ideas about where we get these from, I think are probably going to be, dark leafy greens and beans, legumes, tofu. And then also I tell people that it's good to drink some plant milk. And so what I like to tell people, I have a picture on my phone. I show them every day, including I did today several times, showing them exactly which milk I want them to use because it's good stuff. It tastes good, and it's soy. It's made by Silk. It's the red label. It's cheap. It's a half gallon for $1.99 at Grocery Outlet or Winco. The red label looks like a big red box that is perfect. It does have sugar in it, but you know what? Cow's milk has a lot of sugar. It's called lactose. Lactose is sugar, right? So in this has some cane sugar in it, but it's not as much as cow milk has, and it tastes good, and it's healthy, and it protects against things like breast cancer and prostate cancer and those kind of things that start in childhood. You think, how could that happen? That it would start in childhood? Well, cancers typically do. They do start. Even like one of our big killers, colon cancer. Those polyps don't just happen in adulthood. Really, those polyps start in childhood, and so a lot of your cancer risks are really gotten from childhood exposure. What were you gonna say, man? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes. And this is true of there are so many plant milks. You know, people say, "Oh, I don't like oat milk," or I don't like soy milk because it just tastes gross," or "I don't like almond milk because it's too thin." Well, boy, have you ever had creamy almond milk? It's great for I'm not a big fan of almond milk and coffee in general. I like oat milk myself, but yeah, some of the barista creamier oat, soy, um, a cashew. Yeah. Yes. Right. And sometimes this reminds me of getting used to a new thing your children may not like. Um, Brown rice, just like the whole family may not like brown rice at first, or plant milk. You may have to um, do a titration effect where you're doing uh, small amounts of the good stuff and larger amounts of the not so good stuff like the milk, and and go less and less day by day of the milk and more plant milk. So weaning it over is really an important concept for people who are doing this transition. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're all processed. I mean, when you think about taking whatever you're using and you're processing it no matter what. So it's just a matter of how processed it is and how much you're adding into it that may not be healthy. I think regardless, I think it's not as unhealthy as cow's milk. So whatever you're doing is probably better than cow's milk, is what I feel like. So yeah, and let's see. I wrote down a bunch of things about how a vegetarian vegan lifestyle, uh, how the importance of what that can the effect of that can have on your body as a child or as an adult. And I wrote down a few of these things, like, you know, the better lipid cholesterol profiles, which means decrease of the most common killer in the United States, heart disease. There's lower average BMI, you know, so you get reduced obesity risk. You have better long-term blood pressure trends and therefore less stroke. You've got improved insulin sensitivity, lower lifetime of type 2 diabetes risk, more diverse, healthier gut microbiome, which leads to all kinds of health benefits, you know, brain benefits and autoimmune benefits and all kinds of stuff. Um, a lower lifetime cancer risk, and then lower rates of constipation and diverticulitis. So there's all kinds of stuff. What's the other thing? Oh, just more diverse food acceptances, better palate later in life. You can eat all kinds of things, which I think is there's something to that to be able to explore as an older child or an adult, as you know, just all discovering new foods and being open to trying these new things. I love it. I love that aspect of my eating, trying different foods. And yeah, it doesn't have to be the process kind. It can be just trying new foods that I've never tried before, a new vegetable or there's all kinds of vegetables out there. You know, we're sold all the vegetables that come in our standard uh, um, grocery store, but there are so many. You know, how many rutabagas have we had, or all kinds. There's just it goes on and on. There's hundreds and there's probably thousands of vegetables that are really interesting that we could try. Um, I think, ultimately it's decreased mortality, improved quality of life when you're talking about eating a vegetarian and vegan lifestyle. But the other thing is that, interestingly, is that you can have with children, anyways, you get increased intelligence possibly. Let me show you that last film there, Ed. I wonder if you can pull that one up. It's are the IQs. It's a question. I don't think it's really established, but
Many vegetarian parents believe their children are brighter than omnivorous kids. But you don't really know until you put it to the test. And indeed, the IQ of vegetarian children tested about 16 points higher than average, and their mental age exceeded their chronological age by about a year. The researchers knew the veg kids were bright, but why were they so much more superior? There are obviously confounding factors, like maybe more highly educated parents are more likely to have vegetarian children, and they pass down both their brains and their diets. Even if there is a cause and effect relationship between vegetarianism and IQ, were the children smarter because they were vegetarians, or did they become vegetarian because they were so smart? Researchers in the UK followed 8,000 kids for decades. They measured their IQ at age 10, then came back 20 years later and asked which of them had become vegetarian during that time. And indeed, the smarter kids had an increased likelihood of being a vegetarian as an adult. The researchers even quoted Benjamin Franklin, saying that vegetarian diets result in greater clearness of head and quicker comprehension. According to the largest and oldest association of nutrition professionals in the world, strictly plant-based diets are appropriate for all stages of the life cycle, including childhood, and may indeed provide health benefits. What about plant-based diets and growth in children? Some studies show that children raised on restrictive macrobiotic diets suffer from growth stunting, while others show that those raised plant-based may end up being up to an inch taller. In a systematic review and meta-analysis of children on vegan diets, heights were lower in vegans, but only because they included a study in which the vegan kids were significantly younger, mostly 10 to 14 years old compared to mostly 15 to 19 years old. Once you remove the study with the age disparity, the height disparity also disappears. What about width disparity? Population studies indicate that vegetarian diets are associated with a lower prevalence of obesity in both adults and children.
right. So that's just saying that there's all kinds of benefits, even possible intelligence. I think it's not clear from these studies. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but certainly there's just innumerable benefits from eating this way. But any other thoughts or questions you have about this? Because I think we're going to wrap up a little early. You guys have been great. I love all the interaction and questions you guys have brought today. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Oh man. Well, let's see. I was 3, so I was running around drinking too much milk, and that's probably why I have MS. Honestly, is that's probably affected my microbiome, and I ate a lot of junk and tons and tons of dairy, and that's probably why I have MS. So yeah, about 30 years ago. Yeah. you know, that's absolutely 100% not scientific. It's what my brain does. I know I went from drinking a lot of breast milk until about age 2 to drinking tons and tons of whole milk. And I think that was probably not so good. And then just a very standard American diet. So I don't know. Basically, I had an unhealthy gut microbiome and for many years, and that probably led to autoimmune disease and and why can't I reverse my MS? Is because from relapsing remitting MS is what most people get. That's what I had. But around the same time that I was transitioning, I developed more of a the progressive MS, which is not really something you can reverse. So, yeah. So, soldier on.
40 years ago about Epstein-Barr.
Yes. Yes. So MS, the virus that's most closely associated with MS is the Epstein-Barr virus, the monovirus, the kidney disease virus. And yeah, I had a bad case of that when I was a teenager. Oh, wow, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know. That might have been TMI. That's funny. All right, guys. Any other jokes from the peanut gallery here? I've told this one before. I'm gonna tell you this one. You may have heard this. What did the mermaid wear to math class? Algebra. Yes, algebra. Yes. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Next week is the cooking demonstration from Corey and Chef Corey and Miranda from Acorn. So they'll be here. So that'll be our food sample. Will be whatever he's prepared. I was there last weekend, and he was still toggling between two recipes. He was trying to figure out what he was gonna. Might be some sort of mixed salad dish, or he was thinking about one other one. I can't remember what it was, but come and find out. So we'll just be out there setting up chairs out there in the social area. We won't be in here. And if you've never been to one of his cooking demonstrations, they're pretty informative. He's a really good chef. Has everybody eaten at Acorn? Yeah, yeah. Definitely go there if you haven't. Acorn Community Cafe there at 7th and Monroe. It's like between 7th and 8th. It's right next to Sweet Life there on Monroe. Yes. So they don't take tips. They have a pay it forward program. So you pay your bill, and then you can say, oh, add $5, $10, whatever to the bill. And that money goes to give a free meal to someone that can't afford it. Someone can come in that's unhoused, come in, get a free meal. And that money that we donate, instead of giving them tips because they pay their employees enough money they don't need to depend on tips. And then we can pass that extra money on to someone less fortunate. So.